Okay, so now we're going to make our undercollar, and we're going to do it the same way we did in the previous video. I'm going to take my 2 sheets of paper, and I'm going to stack it. Now, if you're confused and you don't know where I got the 2 pieces of paper from, what we did in one of my previous videos is we took a regular sheet of printer paper, just your 8.5 by 11, and it looked like this at first. We folded it in half, and then we tore along this edge. We tore along the half, okay? And then we made this collar in the previous video, and this is like a basic straight collar, but it has a slight curve in it. Okay, so what we're doing is we're getting ready to make the undercollar. Now, what's the point of the undercollar? The undercollar is basically what you put underneath your collar. That is the flip side. So this is the side that you see when you look at a garment, and this is the side that's usually looking like this. Okay. The undercollar is the underside of that. When you flip the collar up and you see the other side of it, it's the undercollar. Now, why are we making an undercollar? An undercollar's purpose is basically, it is a not completely different, it is a slightly altered pattern piece that we use, what is it for? We use this to basically enhance the appearance of it. It doesn't enhance the fit, it enhances the appearance, basically. Where are my scissors? So grab your pattern paper scissors. And basically what it does, the undercollar is slightly smaller along the edge so that when you are seeing your collar this way, the correct way, you don't see the collar underneath that's sewn to this collar. You should only see this collar, okay? Now, of course, there are exceptions to every rule. If you just want to see your collar for some odd reason, then that's you. But whatever you do in fashion, whatever we do, it always needs to look, you know, prim and proper, and it needs to look like we did it on purpose. It does not need to look like a mistake that we're trying to cover up, like we did it on purpose. So anyway, so once you stapled your piece of paper, go ahead and cut along the edge. Okay. Oh my goodness. So you see what happened here? It did not cut perfect, and that's because the paper shifted some. So I'm going to staple this down. That's the point of stapling it, because we do not want it to move. Any little discrepancies in your patterns will transfer over, especially if you trace over and over and over and over and over again the same pattern to make other patterns. Then you'll gradually you'll end up with a pattern that's like almost an inch bigger than what it was originally. So since we already know that this will happen in the pattern making stage, it's important to keep down the variances, I guess you could say, to try to cut as perfect as possible. This is the cutting that you're used to seeing, like when people cut like this, or when people cut like this, or it's jagged. They cut like they cut, and then they cut, and then they cut, and then they cut, and they cut. And it's from the scissors moving. Part of being a pattern maker, we have to get so much better with our cutting. It can't look like this. It cannot look like that. It cannot look like that. It has to be clean edges. And it comes from taking your time. It's not a skill that you learn overnight, but it is something that you have to pay attention to day by day. Whenever you're cutting your patterns, you have to pay attention to it every time. And I still don't cut absolutely perfect. I still have times when there's little pieces of paper that are hanging out. But sometimes it's because I tried to go back and correct it. So, anyway, so we've done that, and we need to take the staples out now. Okay. Before we take all of the staples out, I apologize. We need to notch down here while the two pattern pieces are together. And there's the notch. And we're done with that. Now take it. So now we're looking at the undercollar. This is the other one. And I took it apart, set it over to the side. Now, this is where the undercollar is different. It needs to be about 1/8 smaller. And we are going to make it exactly 1/8 smaller on the top edge. And then we gotta do something slightly different when it comes to this side edge. This bottom edge we will not change. Now, first thing we need to do is find out where our seam allowance is on the bottom. And we just need to see where this bottom seam allowance meets with the edge. Then we're just gonna take this and we're gonna go to what we call 0. I'm going to make sure you can see that. And that basically means that I'm going from my measurement, 1/8 here, to taking nothing here, where the seam allowance intersects. Okay? And if you want to know exactly why I explained it in the first collar video I did, the straight collar video. So see, that's what we end up with. And it should completely blend out at the seam allowance edge, okay? Not down here. And the reason for that is because you start to alter the fit of it when you go past the seam allowance edge, okay? And I think I explained it a little bit more, like I said in the other video. I don't want to take too much time to explain it now. And then we cut this 1/8 off. I don't know if you could see that. No, you can't. So there you can. And we'll zoom out. Guys, it is so important that we get practice on cutting right on our lines. So important, okay? So after we've done that, you can erase this little line here. And we need to draw our grain lines. That there. Draw a grain line here. And once again, these grain lines are just showing the possibilities, what we can do with our collar. I do not advise that if you have these patterns and different people are looking at them, do not put all of these grain lines on them, because it is going to be very confusing for those other people. You might know what it is, but it might be confusing for them. And even still, for you, you may end up making mistakes. And not mistakes on purpose, of course, but mistakes because you're looking at all these different seam allowances, and it's easy to lose sight of exactly which one you're looking at. Okay, so basic under collar with slight curve. JC Academy. Okay. Size 10. What? There we go. Oh, and we forgot to do something on our collars. We need to put on the fold here. And I mentioned before that on the fold is not something that they do in the industry. They would actually make a piece that is the full collar. They would not make a half of a collar or a half of anything. They would make a full collar piece. Okay. And the purpose of doing this is because in factories they don't fold fabric. They just have, just like how this book here has all these layers of paper, and your books don't come with layers of paper folded. You know, it's all the layers of paper put together. So it's the same way when they are cutting, you know, hundreds of garments in the factory. It's done with, it's done all at once, and then they have a cutter that goes and cuts the paper, and it's this big, machine that they use to cut the fabric, and it cuts down through all of the layers. Ooh, excuse me. And on the fold, and I went up a 1/2 inch. Then I drew these little lines down, so it says on the fold there. Okay. But this is only efficient for home sewing because we don't cut, you know, hundreds of garments out at once. If you do, or if you're planning on it, then it will help that, number one, you have something that can cut down through all of those layers, and number two, you do need to make full pieces for everything. Okay, on the fold. There we go, and that is it. So, anyway, if you have some questions, please leave me a comment down at the bottom of this video somewhere, and ask something, you know. Are you confused or whatever? I may be able to explain something down in the comments. So, thank you for watching and learning, and we'll be seeing you